Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Facehammer
Hello again.
live. And we're going to be talking about Age of Sigmar free games and some lists, and talking about our journey with stuff today. Because I've played a couple games, and I think you have as well, haven't you, Byron?
Yeah, I played 2 games today.
Yeah, same. So yeah, just thought we would basically talk about those, talk about our Age of Sigmar free learning, because even me, like, it was like dusting the cobwebs off, and also go through our lists and talk about list crafting, and maybe do a live
Yeah.
list at the end if people want to. So before we get into the mainstream, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who signed up to Patreon and the YouTube members, and who's looked and checked out our videos. And obviously we had quite a busy live stream this week with the General's Handbook reveal, which is no understatement. And some of you may have seen that we're running a competition that if you join the Facehammer Legion either through YouTube or, I know it's don't mock me, either through YouTube.
Oh no, it's Martin Furnival's not mocking me, and I'm laughing about it.
All right,
I've got the vest
cardigan.
The
Oh, you got the vest
here.
on. Right, get your guns out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna 2 tickets to the gun show. So where was I? I've lost my train of thought now. No, we're talking about competition, right?
It's a pretty crappy show now. We're doing a competition. Thank you so much to everyone for their support, and we're going to chuck something else into the mix, aren't we?
So so the competition we're running is, if you sign up to the members, you can do it by the join button on YouTube or Patreon, or donate a coffee in the next month.
Yeah. Any of them on any level, you'll be entered into the draw. Yeah. And what are we going to add in, Russell?
Well, we're currently doing £30 element vouchers from Dice, but because of the uptake we had on the stream and the sort of the monetization from the ads and stuff like that, I thought actually what would be better than to give away one of these bad boys. So
I hear it's quite nice.
We're going to give a Dominion away.
Good.
Obviously not this, it's a box lid. But a proper one with full of stuff, right?
A really light Dominion.
Yeah, just the box lid. You get the box. No, it's going to be full. I won't drop it of Dominion, so it'll be a proper one. Don't worry. So we will give away a Dominion. So if you want to be entered in that, then you just have to sign up for a month, which is $2.99. Which is $2.99 to sign up minimum, or £3 for a coffee, something like that, and then you'll get a entered into the prize draw. So it could cost you just £3.
People get entered if they leave donation on YouTube as well. Is there a way for us to log those?
Super chat, yeah, sure. I think I could do it that way.
Okay. So any donate, join in via any means possible, and you'll be entered, and we will thank you very much. And if 5 people donate and talk about Goat Trick, Russ will buy him and use him in his next army.
No.
Cheap?
So no, you can't do that. You can't chuck that in. What to get? Should I get a city's army as well? My bin bag of Order War scrolls to go with my old world character.
Oh, don't upset Sam. Bin bag.
I've already been told off. No, not really. I'm joking. They didn't tell me off. But he did.
Oh, the Necromancer. Welcome to the Facehammer Militia.
That's
welcome.
Dave. Thanks,
so
Dave.
much. Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Dave has very hairy legs. I just want to share for the world, for all our viewers. So let's talk about some content now that we've done that. So
let's jump into. Well, I'll say one more thing. If people are interested in Dominion and click through our link, that is an amazing way to support us. But yeah, that's the last bit of it. So let's jump in now, and we're going to look at a couple of lists. Yes.
Oh, there you go. Get on order now.
Yeah. Some
for
limited
copies.
Time only.
Yeah. Very, very. Get on it now. So if you click in the description on the link, then that helps us too. So thanks everyone. Anyway, we'll stop signing stuff to you now. Sorry. So
absolutely. Tell you my amazing list writing and how to make Slaanesh work.
Should we do Slaanesh first?
Just gonna. I tell you what do people want to see? So the options are your Soul Blight, your Soul Blight Gravelords, or my Slaanesh. What would people like to see first?
They're all going to say Slaanesh.
Well,
we're on a delay, so by the time we see it, it would have been like people frantically.
I just want the opportunity for people to say that
we could have done a poll. It would have been better. We could have done it at the beginning if we were organised, but obviously not. So
we've been revising all day for you guys. So yeah,
I was literally like putting stuff together.
Nash,
So thanks, Gracie. I appreciate that.
your rust crystals.
Sanesh. It's gonna
Sounds
be
like something
Sanesh.
that a grey sneer would snort before a spell.
It's good, man.
All right. Oh, one soul blight. Oh, we're almost 50-50. 4-3.
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh, Slash, there you go, that's it.
All right, Nick, you swung it. All right.
That's nice.
We'll do it both
nice
anyway. So
nice to know it's even. Let's put my list up.
All right. It's always about you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not really.
I'm Slanesh. I'm not magnificent, but
well,
should all be.
Speaking of magnificence,
oh, he did some magnificence today. I have a story.
Oh, I want to hear it because I don't know how you got on because we haven't spoken because we literally just rushed straight onto the stream. So
I won't say how my results went yet.
So Slanesh are fine, right? That's the TLDR of the show.
they're not fine.
Yeah, but you were playing against some really horrific armies, right?
Yeah, but that's how I want it.
That's how you play.
That's what the aim is. Oh, that looks beautiful and appropriate, Russ. Good job. Okay. So
I thought it was pink enough.
So this it certainly is. So this is a list I wrote. It's probably useful to tell people as briefly as possible the process I went through for this, because obviously making a list these days feels a bit weird and a bit different. So I had about 3 or 4 lists that we discussed in our Discord in the chaos section, which was actually really cool. So thank you for anyone who joined in with that. Link to our Discord is in the video if you want to join in. Good way to discuss armies and stuff. I had some lists that were kind of roughly around this theme. Now, the fact that Hellstrider's gone down in points just makes me more likely to take them than I ever was. Blissbarb Archers, they're in there because you need summer shooting. They shouldn't have gone up in points. That's ridiculous.
Better than Sentinels, though. Gotta be, right? Just trolling.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
150
it's a fuck
Lumineth ones, or
be honest, it's a
180 for mine. It is. It'll even out at some point in the near future, though. So I'm not taking these because I think they're the most efficiently pointed things in. What is in this list is what I've put things in that are going to perform certain duties. So the archers are going to shoot things. Part of the reason for having where's the Enraptress in there is she's got some shooting as well. So there's a little bit of shooting in there, not too much. 2 units are Hellstriders, and they're just in there to hold people up for as long as possible and die as slowly as possible whilst generating me depravity, hopefully from their damage and also the damage received to them. And then we've got the suite of heroes. I kept the Keeper in because in Lurid Haze, which if people aren't aware, if you're playing in Lurid Haze, which is what are they called now?
A sub-faction.
Thank you very much. The sub-faction, Lurid Haze. D3 of your units get to deploy off the table and come on as ambushes. So I think given how aggressive that plays, you want to start with a Keeper so that one of those units, who will be Sigvald, no surprises there, can go twice. So, you know, she's very expensive. I think these days probably you're more likely to be summoning her at 420 points. The reason I still have her is that. And then the final thing that's in there is the Bladebringer on Exalted Chariot, which actually I think is just fine on a lot of levels. It's kind of a utility piece. It gets a cast, it gets a unbind, obviously. The spell is not bad and is quite a low casting value, and she does a lot of average attacks. Also in this list, we've tweaked it a bit and put Flaming Sword on her, which I didn't do when I played today, but I should have, and I think is quite a good option. And then finally, paying a lot for them, we have the... are they on the list? Where are they?
Your Twin Souls at the top.
Souls.
Yeah, so I've ordered it by battalion. So at the top, you've got the Vanguard with Sigvald and the Twin Souls.
Oh, yeah, okay then. So the 10 Twin Souls there. They could be Twin Souls, or they could be the other ones, which are called Painbringers, and they are there to be resilient. That's why they're in the list. So yeah, that's the overall kind of reasoning for everything being in the list. Generally speaking, let's say you get 2 units deploying off the table, you would put Sigvald and the Twin Souls off the table. They'd arrive. Hopefully, they will make their charge because one of them is going to get a reroll on their charge, and Sigvald gets +3 anyway. Cogs is in there, so if you've done things right, you should be at +4 to charge with Sigvald and +1 to charge and re-rolling with the Twin Souls if Sigvald makes
And
it
the
in.
good thing
Always
about
charge first.
Vanguard, you can issue the command ability from Vanguard on one unit, and you can issue it naturally on the other unit. So you could do it twice in the same if you've got enough command points.
Yeah, it's
Is the
it's
slang
really
gone there?
painful in this edition when you
In
it's
the
really
bin.
painful in this edition when you use a command point on re-rolling a charge and it doesn't work.
It is. Bless you.
Sorry, the pollen's still out there. But yeah, that feels grim. I don't know what, like, both you used a command point, which can be used on way more interesting stuff, or, you know, buffing the save of the thing that failed its charging when it gets charged in the next turn, and you didn't get in. So that feels really, really grim these days. Yeah, that's the idea of the list. So you put your opponent under some early pressure whilst generating some depravity points, and the Twin Souls stick around there a bit. Slight issue with Twin Souls in Lurid Haze is that you activate their ability, you switch it on in the hero phase. It says you must. They're not on the table, so you can't do something for a unit that's off the table. In my
That's
assumption,
weird, isn't it? Yeah.
it is. So it does say you must. I don't know if that overrides anything. I'm quite happy to say, you know, they're off the table, but they're charging up their ward saves or whatever it is. But for that reason, I would probably swap the Twin Souls for Painbringers.
I wonder what the wording is on it. Does it say like this unit on the battlefield, or just say like?
No, in your hero phase, you must choose one of the following. You may not use.
Being on the battlefield's not a prerequisite, so I would say you get to use it.
No, it's not. So yeah, not sure that one would like an FAQ. It feels a bit painful to be punished for taking 10 370-point dudes.
if you ask an FAQ, they're going to say no, right? Because they don't want to give any Slaanesh advantage because they're already too good. They have to put their points up.
Yeah, that's definitely it. But so today I faced. If people got any questions about the list, by the way, please do.
So someone said, "Where's the shard speak or no shard speaker question mark?" So that's the 150-point hero that I like. That gives you the minus wound. So I would probably want that over the Enrapturous, but then I guess the Enrapturous shoots. So
yeah, so that slot there, I would quite happily swap in the shard speaker or the mask, which I think is incredible. I really, really like the mask, and the only reason it's not in there is because I also think that making people reroll their spells in an edition when Mystic Shield is this good is just great. You start close enough to people often now that you can have her within range of 1 or 2 wizards, and making both of those reroll their casts and potentially, you know, also damage themselves. Depravity, I think is really tasty. The other obvious thing that you could fudge around with and drop in would, I say, be Sinessa in this list.
Yeah, not bad.
And she seems really, really good.
I mean, your chariot could almost be cycled between Sinessa, Dexessa, chariot, you know, and then the Enrapturous could be mask, shard speaker, Enrapturous. So you've got a bit of play if you have particular, like, I actually think, although the epitome is expensive, overwhelming acquiescence is very good.
Yeah, it is good. You know,
you get rerollable unbinds or casts. I think it's casts.
I think it's casts, and having two spells as well is nice. No, Sinessa feels like she should have 2 spells. You know, she's fine for her points. Don't think there's anything wrong with her points, but it feels like you know, maybe if it was just 1 unbind and 2 spells, if she had 2 spells, she would be in the list. But she doesn't, so she's not. So anyway, yeah, my cogs ain't getting used on that.
No. So, Nick Cable, do you think Slaanesh is playable at a tournament? Yes.
Okay, it is,
but it doesn't mean you're going to win any games.
It is 100% playable. You are going to have to play your tits off. Like there's no point. You know, I'm not taking this and blind. Yeah, blind to the fact that this feels like an 1800 point, you know, 1850 point army, or whatever it would be. Like, it's probably 1800 points. It feels like, bearing in mind it's a 1950 point list. You absolutely could, and you could win games there. You are gonna get punished for mistakes. You always did with Slaanesh anyway, because they've got no resilience.
Just nature of the army, right?
And you'll get punished instantly, and it's a finesse army. So already before the points were expensive, it was a hard one. You will learn a lot quite fast, though. I would say, the moment you make a mistake, you learn instantly. And if you take a really resilient army, you don't learn instantly. So it's a plus, but it's quite a painful plus, I would say. Anyway, I played a couple of games. I played against what was the old, like stupidly strong Nurgle for Vanguard, Knights of the Empty Throne list. It's changed slightly now. It's not quite as ridiculous. It's still pretty ridiculous. I lost to that, but I did feel like I was in the game. It's quite difficult, but I did feel like I was in the game. I used my command points.
Sorry, just to interrupt. So, would you know what mission you played?
The first one from the book.
So the auto win on turn 3 one, the marking territory. From the core book.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't have
because I've been playing their GHB. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have one. So
it makes quite a big difference to your games, actually, because of all the GUR stuff and the way the missions work and destroying objectives. So we had a really...
I played Frontal Assault.
Frontal Assault, yeah. So you... did you find, like, grand strategy... What one did you take? Did you take Hold the Line or what, General Alive, or what was it you...
I forgot that one, but I did remember which ones to take at the start of turn. There's a lot to remember at this stage. We've got various things. And actually, as an aside, guys, I would really recommend either taking an army that you know the rules of extremely well, or taking an army with less complex war scrolls. Either like 4 different war scrolls, or war scrolls that don't do too many things, because you're going to be taking on board so much new information from the new rules that it would be good if you didn't have to think about the rest of it. So if you could play with like an army that's got 5 different war scrolls and a couple of them are simple, I would thoroughly recommend that. And even if you're going to an event, I would still recommend that at this stage, because whilst other people are trying to be cute and learning the rules, you can just rump up the table and only concentrate on target priority from your army, target priority, combat priority, and then resource management.
Thanks,
and then,
Nathan.
The other rules. Thank you very much, Nathan. But yeah, it's the army worked actually fairly well. The Twin Souls being movement, the Twin Soul stats they are all over the place. They're movement 8, 2-inch reach, 4-up save, 2-inch reach, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, damage 2. They're so schizo. But they're called Twin Souls, so they are meant to be weird and have 2 aspects, so I guess it works out fairly well. Movement 8 is pretty cool. 4-up save is fine. Buffing it to a 3-up makes them very tasty.
Yeah. We were having a chat in the Discord, weren't we? There was a group of us all having a back and forth about Sunesh.
Yeah.
And we were chatting on the actual voice channel as we were typing in the text channel. And we were talking about, because you had Painbringers, and I was like, don't Twin Souls technically with like the ward just are better with the reach? And then we were like, oh, I don't know, then the movement, and I don't know.
Yeah. So getting mortal wounds and wound rolls of a 6 with the Painbringers is really nice against heavily armored stuff. My second game was against a Blood Knight list today, and most things I was hitting were on a 3 or 2-up save. And just doing some mortal wounds is super tasty. Greetings to Germany. So yeah, they felt all right, actually. They're obviously very expensive, but in terms of trying to perform their role, it felt solid. I am very tempted to just put in a unit of 5 Chaos Knights, I must say.
Yeah, I think for one,
like really
170 points, right? So like in the new edition,
or 10.
so like
right?
Well, I mean, your unit of 10 twin souls could be 10 Chaos Knights, and they're cheaper.
I could gain 30 points.
Yeah,
completely.
So like it's, I don't know. Then like a Chaos Sorcerer makes sense, right? Because you can, because
it's a cast. It's an unbind as well. It's another hero to make unlock formation. Yeah. The other thing that makes sense is Be'lakor. I know that's a bit of a weird aside.
Just play
or
slaves.
Archeon, but then I'm going to completely change the list. No,
just play slaves.
It's
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Archeon performs a lot of the duties that you are trying to find in someone resilient and flexible. He casts, he's got buffs. He chews back his own wounds. You know, like he's a proper utility piece. And actually, because they're just so expensive, you don't have to drop that much to get him in. You know, I could not have a keeper of my twin souls, and I'd nearly be at Archeon inclusion level, just instantly. So yeah, I did think about popping him in.
I think we got a lot of chat about in the chat about reach and about the Hell Striders. I guess like we talked about, didn't we, that the Hell Scourges, because you get a -1 to hit when you charge with them, and having a 3-inch reach means you can almost form like a little triangle wedge formation, like the old Bretonians, like back in the 5th Ed, or was it the 6th Ed box set with the Lizardman, and they had the lance formation tray.
Exactly.
Everyone's like, what are you talking about? Cardboard cutout goblins.
So...
Go back to my childhood.
All right, so I won't talk away from the mic, but I'll draw how I frequently use Hell Striders. Here, give me a sec.
Yeah, so I think what we're about to see here is Byron draw a blob of men, and the Hell Striders charging in almost like a conga line, and then piling in to be able to attack, but really minimizing the attacks coming in. Either that, or he's just going to put them in a line, and I'm going to look like an idiot. Hi, William.
All right, so apologies for my amazing drawing. So let's say that in this scenario, the large circle is my opponent's monster. Then they've got 2 cavalry units in front of it, and I've got my Hell Striders. This is different in Slaanesh because you can stop people from being able to pile in, which does make a real difference, and is something that I try my best to use as often as possible. It's also one of the biggest reasons to start with your keeper on the board and put other demon heroes in there, like the Lady on the Chariot. So I think people get really tied up with the people get really tied up with the stats of the non or abilities of the non-demon heroes, but just not having that is huge. So, for example, this little weird dart here that I've got, let's say that I send a keeper into this position. On a 3+, she stops the unit from piling in. Instantly, that hero is trapped somewhere, you know, probably trapped somewhere where they can't reach, and if they can, they're going to be at -1 to hit anyway. And the amount of damage coming back to my unit is practically nothing. I attack with 3 horses and then 5 riders, which don't have a bad stat line at all, actually. I mean, for 1-3-5, they're one of the best things in the entire book. And that is the type of shape that I use my guys in a lot. 3-inch reach really, you know, screws people up. They just don't expect to see it coming. And if you do something like that in your opponent's next turn, they possibly have to run their unit away, especially if you have, you know, a chariot pierce that's it's a 50% chance of stopping someone from piling in with a locust. So yeah, stuff like that is completely invaluable. Hell Striders with Hell Scourges are 1+, I would say, and possibly arguably 2+ in practically any Slaanesh list I can think, unless you're doing something really very strange in particular. I just cannot see how they're not.
I really like choice. 2 units of them and a unit of archers, which is what you've got, or you go for 3 units of them as your battle line, and then you go, well, I get my shooting in another way, either by taking Seekers or maybe a Soul Grinder. I think the Soul Grinder is maybe an underrated thing.
Yeah, the Soul Grinder is underrated.
It does give you shooting, and it's a monster. The base is ridiculously big, but other than that, it's Chaos Knights,
completely,
definitely.
I've got a lot of time for him. Yeah, we've been talking about the Chaos Knights a lot. Anyway, that's the type of thing that I was trying to make the most of on the table. The moment you can do that, as long as you're not playing Blood Knights, because they break all the rules in the game and can run away and come back and stuff like that, you know, that position for an opponent is extremely awkward. You've got 5 guys that cost you 130 points. They've gone in, they've probably done a couple of wounds to each unit. So you've got a depravity there and back. You've probably lost 1 of them back or 2 of them back, and they've not run away. So you've generated 3 depravity. You've pinned 2+ units, and then, you know, depending what you've put into those other units, it's really important to have an exchange in which you come out better if you're in a fragile army anyway, but in an army that is expensive, that is incredibly important. I just saw the question, depressingly, do Fiends have a place in 3rd edition?
I was waiting for you to catch
at 400 points. At 400 points for 6, dude, you're gonna struggle. You know, I'm not gonna bullshit anyone here.
But the same price, you can have 20 Chaos Warriors, right?
Yeah, and why
Which,
wouldn't
like,
you? Or
why
why
wouldn't
wouldn't
you
you
take
take
that?
10 Chaos Knights and have 60 points in change?
Yeah.
So there is place for them bubble wrapping different things, and there's like a debuffy Glutos list, but because you can't stack debuffs now, unless the person you're attacking is using +1 to hit and you're trying to counter it or something like that, that also feels like you're paying for abilities that you wouldn't be getting
Well,
anyway.
everyone
So,
can mitigate -1 now, but having -2 means that they can't mitigate that generally.
yeah.
So it does have a place, but
You
I
can try
think
and
minus
pull
to
people's
wound,
CPs out, but
very good. But I think because of
yeah,
coherency and the reach, the fiends struggle a little bit as well.
yeah, they do.
I think if
They've
they
got
got a
they've
2-inch
got a
reach on
bit
the
more.
tail, or is that me just
Yeah,
smoking
the
crack?
tail's only really good against things that have got high amounts of wounds. So
Mm.
if you send them into average stuff, you suddenly feel like, anything, like everything in the Slanesh book is really good at killing average crap. And fiends aren't very good at killing average crap. So if you face average crap, you'd rather you had something that cost half their points. Genuinely, I would take 2 units of Seekers, or even some. No, I wouldn't take a 10 of them, but I take 2 units of Seekers for 280 points over 1 unit of Fiends at 400 every day currently. I think Seekers are really good, actually. They're one of the fastest units in the game, and they do buff themselves if they kill something in a way that I
They've
think
got a
people,
unit champion
they
as
don't.
well, haven't they? So you can still issue command
Yeah, they
abilities and
do.
things like that. So
What's your plan to deal with 3+ Law Seekers? Wait until that gets fixed, because it's ridiculous.
just roll 6s
That
on your
shouldn't be.
claws, and you'll just do mortals, and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Just get your keeper
should be
in
there
there,
currently.
just like that, little pincers. Take him
So
out.
yeah,
Cut him up.
that's the type of thing I'm employing. The list does have legs. A couple of things I've considered and a couple of things I wanted to note. If you can just fiddle around with your formations and get a 5-drop really, really easily in Slanesh, because you've got enough heroes to be able to support Warrior. And then what's the other core battalion that's the 1-drop one?
So Warlord, what's the can't remember what it's called. Battle something. Battle
On my way
formation.
to it. Yeah, on my way to it now.
Death Star.
Battle
No,
Regiment.
Battle Regiment. I knew it had
Yeah, so
battle in it.
you can be Warlord and Battle Regiment really easily. Put the minimum in Warlord, so 4 drops, and then put everything else in Battle Regiment. That works out well in Slanesh because you're often fairly hero heavy. So you can be both 5 drops and have the CP and the enhancement from a Warlord, and I think that's really, really good, because quite frequently then you will be slightly less drops than your opponent, and having the opportunity to let your opponent go first, come to you so you can reach them with your shooting easily, or to put them on the back foot with the aggressive potential of Lurid Haze. I think that's got some legs. But yeah, that's most of my takeaways from this. You really have to manage your command points.
Yeah.
Magic items I'll touch on quickly, or enhancements as they're called these days. So Amulet of Destiny on a Keeper feels like a very, very sensible way to spend your points. If I didn't take the Keeper on the Bladebringer on Exalted Chariot, it's also absolutely fine and really, really solid. So like that's one thing to bear in mind. But if you did want to take the what's the rod that you're always on about?
Rod of Misrule.
Yeah, Rod of Misrule.
I love a good rod.
So does all of Slanesh. But they're not partial. They'll take anything. So
Care. They don't care where the rodding comes from.
Being able to just dredge up CPs frequently is really a big deal. One thing that I think is worth noting is that the CP you get from Warlord, I think because your list is so fragile, just use it in your first turn, because you'll regret it if you don't, generally speaking. If you're being aggressive and you're getting yourself into a situation where you're going to hit things and get hit back, and you may want to reroll a charge, or you may want to fight twice with Sigvald, whatever it is, just burn it on the first turn and use it then, so you don't regret it later on.
I think if you're going first, I agree. I think because you can burn it in your... it has to be used in your hero phase, or can you use it in both?
So you can use it in your opponents as well.
Yeah, so I'd say you'd know if you've got resource staffed or not, right? So I quite like holding it back if this is necessary, because if you go in first and you're going to go, right, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, So like in terms of like grand strategy, because people are asking about it, and I know you said you didn't take one
Yeah.
because you forgot about it.
Yeah.
So there's
What
3
page
in
should I
the
choose?
core book, 339. So when the battle ends, you complete the grand strategy. There are no heroes for your opponent's starting army. Vendetta complete if the model chosen to be your opponent's general has been slain and the model chosen to be your general has not been slain, or hold the line. If there are any battle line units from your starting army on the battlefield, they're all like pretty difficult. I would say you're probably Vendetta might not be too bad because you're invaders and you've got multiple generals.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Vendetta is the obvious choice. Absolutely, I think. It depends how the general and generals is ruled, I guess, to some degree, but Vendetta, I would say, is the
I
obvious
would
one.
yeah. I think like there's new ones in the GHB in the pack there, so you get a lot more choice. So there's another 3, I think. There's like 6 those, and then there's another 3 that are repeated. So let me just have a quick look if I could actually find my my folder of pictures. No, I will not share it before anyone asks me. As in, like, I won't give you a PDF. Go away, behave. So let's have a quick look. What have we got? Grand strategies. I can pop it on the screen though. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? So let's go with that, and then there we go. So
It's making my picture more clear.
You've got the sever the head, hold the line vendetta the same. Then you've got another set. So you've got dominating presence. Complete this, and then more units from your starting army on the battlefield than there are units from your opponents. So that's probably a no. Beastmaster, when the battle ends, you complete this if there are any monsters on the battlefield. Probably a no as well. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are any wizards from your starting army on the battlefield. That might be okay. Pillars of Belief is priests, and then Predator's Domain. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control more terrain features, which might be okay because I imagine because it doesn't reference starting army, your summonable units would be able to count, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would read it like that as well.
Yeah, so I would probably go with that. It's tough,
I
isn't
think that
it?
sounds really solid. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of them involve keeping stuff alive, and that's not how you play this army. Like, it just
No.
isn't. Today's stream is not just for Slaanesh. We are going to be covering making lists for Soulblight as well. Russ has been doing that.
Yeah, so we'll probably because it's quite difficult to make lists on the fly because you know, we don't have War Scroll Builder. We could do it on a whiteboard and stuff, but I'm going to talk about Soulblight because I played with that today. And then what we might do
Yeah,
is
go for
talk a little bit about some stuff. But the idea is this gives you an example of how armies are constructed and some of the pitfalls and things
Yeah.
we've learned. And the idea is you can go away and come up with your own ideas. And we'll do, obviously, we do a lot of list shows, but obviously there's like 15 factions with sub factions with different themes. So it's very hard to, you know, like cover all of that off. But we will do more of these sort of shows, so don't worry, we'll get round to it. If you something you particularly want to see, put it in the comment, and we'll look at it and try and add it to a list. But these are just the armies we played with today, so they're more relevant, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. One final thing, so I had a good question. Do you think it's worth investing in a predatory endless spell? Yes, I do. And if you are looking to take fiends, I think it's even more worth doing because you should be killing one of your fiends before the game kicks off. To get
Really?
them down to
Why?
5 for that, you know, because they can move around more easily. It makes a really big difference with how you can fit them between your own units, how you can get them into combat, how many attacks you can employ on people and stuff like that.
Yeah, but your opponent's
So-
going to kill them at some point, right? They're going to have a go at them
Oh,
at some
no,
point, and then you go down to 5. So
Well, you know, if you can generate some depravity off your own army at the start of the game, a lot of time with Slaanesh, you find that they're, you know, you're very often going to land somewhere at the first chance you get to summon between 8 and 12, and you want to be 12, and anything you do to get to 12 will be worth it. So, yeah, ticking it up in your first turn before your opponent's first turn or stuff like that, even if it involves being a bit suicidal, I think is a really good idea. I lent into the triumph of +1 wound rolls and made sure I got it with this list because it's actually pretty insane with Slanesh, in my opinion. You know, I got to roll a 12-inch charge with Sigval today, and using the triumph on him in that situation is pretty fun. So, but also the Twin Souls or Keeper or the Chariot. There's a lot of really good people to receive that triumph.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you went 0-2 today, was it?
I did, yeah. I faced what I would say are two completely top tier lists today in the Vanguard Nurgle list with Khorne Demon Prince, and then the Blood Knights list, which is absolutely insane. As far as killing stuff went, though, I played better against Tom Maudsley with his Blood Knights, I think, and I did manage to nearly wipe out 3 and a bit units of them, which I was quite surprised by. So you can do it if you get a bit of luck and you plan things nicely. But yeah, against an army that couldn't pile in 6 or flee and charge again, I think this army's, as long as it's played well, if it's a combat army you're against, it's actually got quite a decent chance against them.
How did you find the battle tactics in between the turns? Were they, like, each turn, were they fairly good?
They were fairly fine, actually. Like, picking something and being able to kill it as Slanesh isn't bad. It's trying to keep your own stuff alive, and reaching objectives is not too difficult either. So as long as you don't get greedy and always use the easiest one and think about which one you should be saving for another turn, like if you can probably get one, but you could definitely get a really easy one that you should be saving for later, then that's quite a hard decision there. So yeah, I think they're fine for that, but the grand strategy is harder.
I found that when I was playing that, like, if you get given the first turn, you could just get one of the hard ones really easily because there's no enemies contesting the objectives. So you just go, I'll control 2 of the objectives on the table that aren't controlled currently, more than your opponent. It's like really easy to do on the first turn, but not so much when they've got models all over them. So yeah, it's particularly in the Beast Pack, because with the Realm Shatter rule, you can destroy objectives. So when you go into battle round 3, whoever goes second gets to remove one of the objectives. So in one of the games we played, because Les took the turn, I could remove the objective he was completely safe on, and then he was like, oh, that's actually going to make it really hard to come back in. And we found, like, before, when you were trying to, like, just score every objective as much as you could, you don't really need to do that, because a lot of the points are like you have more than your opponent, or you control one of the 2 on the middle of the board or something like that. So you can, like, you don't have to be as spread around the table, and the kind of the strategies, and that's probably more important in some regards. So I actually quite like how it makes you think differently about the game. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot to think about. I think, like, even for me, like, I found it extremely difficult to remember everything. And even, like, on the second game, my head was mush, and there was stuff where, like, let's had a run and charge unit, ran it towards my unit, and I was like, I could have redeployed, but I completely forgot about it and didn't do it. And then I was like,
redeploy is the easiest triumph to forget. Sorry, the easiest command ability to forget by a long stretch. We had a chat after everyone had finished their games today, and no one used it, and everyone had multiple situations in which it could have, you know, made a really big difference to their games. So that one's going to take some practice, and I think while you're overloaded with other new stuff, that's the most easy one to not actively use well.
Yeah, Timothy, that's a good question about Skaven Tide. I think one of the things I'm planning to do is to try and get some guests on once FAQs are out. People have got the book, had a few games, so I'm quite keen to have, like, Sean on from the American Detroit club, because he sent me a few things he's excited about for the he's actually in the rule book under the player's code playing Ricky, but he sent me a few pointers on Skaven. So I'm going to do some guest shows, so I'll get some people on who know more about those factions that play them, so I'm not just there, like, waffling at you about what I think, because yeah, it's good. But should I talk about Soulblight now, Byron, or have you got something you're drawing up?
Absolutely. No, I'll cover this afterwards. Okay. In the game now. I was using a better pen than I was. Right, let's bring out the undead.
Right, so I'm going to talk about Soulblight. So bear with me with the size of the font, because there's so much in the list, it's quite hard to show it off. So I'm gonna do a zoom. I'm gonna tactical zoom. Okay, so I've taken a Legion of Night Soulblight Gravelords army. Okay, so the format's a bit weird, but I've got a Vengorian Lord not in a formation. He's just on his own because he's just sat out there being cool, right? Now I've given him the artifact Amulet of Destiny for a 5-up ward because why wouldn't you? And I've actually, because the Law of the Vampires is so bad, and although you've got pinions, he's movement 12 flies anyway, and he can run and charge if you get lucky. So I've gone with Flaming Sword for +1 damage.
It's on one of his profiles. Do you think it's still worth it?
Yes, because his sword's damage 2 with 4 attacks goes to damage 3.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't need to cast it, and he's got a good War Scroll spell, and he could cast Mystic Shield. So it's like it's situational, but like sometimes you're just like, I might as well cast it on the first turn because there's nothing else to do, and you just put this Flaming Sword on. It was quite good. I used it today. It was good. Warlord Battalion is obviously Manfred because it's Manfred's Legion. I'm taking Manfred. I've gone with Overwhelming Dread from him from the Death Mages because he's a Mortark. He can take those. White King on Skeleton Steed as the general with the command trait and the Holy Impetus. I'll talk about this in a sec. So he makes a Graveguard battle line, which allows me to double reinforce them. So I've got 30 Graveguard, which they're down here, 30 Graveguard with Great White Blades, but I'll talk about them in a sec. So then I've got a Necromancer with Law of the Death Mage's Fading Vigor. He's actually got an artifact that's not on there, but it's Morbeg's Claw. I left it off, but it's Morbeg's Claw, which is you can basically, in your hero phase, he could just sit there and scribe the rune, and you get +2 to cast for every wizard within 12. He can't run, he can't charge, he can't fight. Who cares? It's a Necromancer. So it's to give you that guaranteed or nearest guaranteed spells like Van Hels's, your Invocation, your
Mystic Shield
debuff,
is sometimes
Mystic Shield,
yeah, so important these days. Failing that feels big. That and failing charges feels grim.
I'm not on a commission selling the Battle Force, so I'm trying to get a free one. So then 10 Dire Wolves because you've got no Fellbats in this list. Sorry, it's I know it's wrong. That's in the Warlord for me formation. That gives me the second artifact. It gives me the extra command point. I really rate Warlord. I take it pretty much every list I write. Then I've got the Vanguard Battalion with the Vampire Lord, who's got pinions because he's movement 6. So you might as well chuck opinions on him first turn to get him moving, or you can Mystic Shield something. Now I've got double Corpse Cart with the -1 to wound aura. Now I could take the +1 to cast one, but I want the -2 to wound aura twice because I think it's that
on
important.
More of the table.
Also, if they kill one, you've got another one.
Yeah.
So I just think it's that good. Then Hunters of the Heartlands formation. So these units are immune to Monstrous Rampage. So 30 Graveguard, as I mentioned, and 2 units of 20 zombies. They're my battle line. My grand strategy, which is not on here, is hold the line. I'm not going to sing it. So as we often do, which is I actually think I would be better off taking the one to keep a wizard alive because I've got 5 wizards. Or 4 wizards because the White King's not a wizard technically. So I think that might be a better one to take. So the list. Okay, so what does it do? So Vengorian Lord has got an aura minus worse than the rend if you're within 3. You've got the Corpse Cart -1 to wound if you're within 9. That's just the unit.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be models. Manfred has obviously got the command ability that gives everyone, all the Soulblight units that summon just all Soulblight units, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. He's also got a sword that if he kills something, all summonable units wholly within, I think it's 12, get +1 attack. The Necromancer allows a summonable unit to go twice. The Vampire on foot has a command ability to get +1 attack on a summonable unit. You might see where this is going. And the White King on Steed does mortal wounds on the charge. He's got a 3-up save. He's got 7 wounds. He's pretty solid. But he also has the command trait Unholy Impetus, which is if he kills a model, then all Soulblight summonable units wholly within 12 get +1 attack. So what you can do is pop your command ability on Manfred in the hero phase. you can then make sure you've got your, if you play for it, you can put like Mystic Shield on the Graveguard. You can go, okay, right, I've got Manfred will kill something. You can be really aggressive with Manfred as well. I'll talk about it in a minute, because he just, in the opponent's go, he could just go, I'm had enough for your counter charge, I'm just going to leave. Because when you're within 3 of him, you could just, in the combat phase, you could just pick him up and put him anywhere on the table 9 away.
No, that's so good.
So like, if you're playing against an army that only really has combat damage, you could be super aggressive, kill whatever you fight, leave him stood in front of their whole army. They charge him, you just say, yeah, see you later. I'm not into that. I mean, not only that, he's got the armor of Templehof, so he ignores the first wound. He heals. He can get a 2-up save from Mystic Shield or from All Out Defense. And obviously, like, he's 3-up normally, 2-up, and then you can stack those 2 to get +2 save to mitigate rend if you're particularly worried about that. Yeah, Manfred is big win for me. So if you kill something, you get +1 attack on your Graveguard. If you kind of be from the Vampire, +1 attack on the Graveguard. If you're really comboing it up and you've got the White King and he does it, another +1 attack. So your Graveguard with great weapons can be +1 a hit, +1 a wound, -1 to wound against them. The rend is worsened by 1, +3 attacks. Yeah, and that's before you've even spent a command point on them. So you could then put Mystic Shield All Out Defense, or you could go All Out Attack. So I think they're super good. They also summonable, so if they die, you can bring them back. If you want to, you could be super aggressive. So if you know you're going first, or your opponent's like to, you can set them off the table, and you could use a gravesite to drop them in the middle of the table on top of the objective, and then run your buffs up because they are very slow at movement 4. Same with the zombies, and with the Vanguard formation, you can make one of those units, like the Corpse Cart, an auto 6 to make sure that debuff is within range, or get the Vampire up to have the +1 attack if the Graveguard are particularly in front, so whichever you want. But you can actually do it on both, because you can use the formation one, and you can use the Warlord command point, which then allows you to make the Vampire Lord run, or if you don't get pinions off. So he could basically go 18 inches, and then he's got a 12-inch, so you could be really aggressive with that. The Gravesite also gives the Graveguard a death save. Don't need a hero there.
Big deal.
You also get reroll 1s on your death list because you've got a banner in the unit. Oh, and they do mortals in addition on a 6 to wound. I just think the Graveguard unit is super good. And they're into Monstrous Rampage, so it's all good, right? That's awesome. So
they're just fine without too much help, and then you've got the ability to give them a ridiculous amount of
turn
help
up to 11.
So you can, yeah, you really can. Yeah.
To be honest, it's probably a bit too much. But the nice thing of having the redundancy of multiple things, like the game I played was quite funny. So I literally, like, I've got this turn, I'm going to go for the Graveguard. They need like an 8 to charge or something. I was like, right, going to Van House them, do the Claw, Van House, Mystic Shield. I'm going to do from Manfred his explosion spell, which is Wind of Death. So you target a unit, everything within 6 of that unit. So it's a big unit spread out of like 40 mil infantry. Then everything within 6 on a 3+6 D3 mortals. And I was rubbing my hands together. I was like, there's like 7 units in range. This is going to be amazing. Got unbound. Oh, well, there you go. But anyway, so if you cast that and it's amazing, you're like, yeah, great. But then the Vangorian Lord rolled a 1 on the first turn, which meant he could run and charge. So I was like, okay, but I can't use command abilities, which is a bit annoying. So he basically just launched himself into the middle of my opponent's army. Manfred launched himself into the middle of the army. The White King launched himself into the army. The Graveguard moved up and then failed to charge. And I was like, okay, looks like the 3 heroes are just going to do it on their own. And thanks to some epic fails from Les, so thanks Les, they did. But actually, it really showed me how powerful, like, a Flaming Sword Vangorian Lord with a 5-up ward and a worsened rend.
The Vangorian Lord is it's like playing the dragon. It spikes so much, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like, it can go really well, or not so much.
I'm going to
you
put
and your
you
blood
in the
knights
bin.
can bugger off.
Yeah, so like
today comprehensively.
he did he lance you with his 1 inch? reach.
Yeah, he's going to put hand weapons on his because he thinks it's stupid that Lancers don't get 2-inch reach, so it's going to be armed with hand weapons.
No, I didn't, but I did play a second game, Stubble, where I then proceeded to forget loads of rules, play like a complete idiot, and then like push Oryx around the table like a complete moron. So I'm not going to cover that. It's my
Don't
narrative.
pick stuff you haven't played with for 2 years when you're trying to learn a new edition. Would
No.
be the
Well, actually, I never played
yeah.
with Soulblight apart from the playtest game that we played during lockdown, like one
But you have
or two
obsessed over
games.
the book, haven't you? Quite a lot.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, so it, to be honest, like I really enjoyed the army. There is a lot to think about. I think you need to be aggressive with Manfred to get the most. I think you have to be. And that's why I quite like the White King, because if Manfred's off on his own and the White King's just hanging around the Graveguard, you can still do the Holy Impetus trick.
Yep.
You can almost use the Vengorian Lord and Manfred as a tag team.
Yeah, the Vanguard Lord is such a beastly option, and he does way more than you would think to just affect the board around him.
Yeah, it's he's really good. You also get to Tom's like, I bought a Vampire Lord because it doesn't do anything to Blood Knights. Yes, right. Take some Graveguard, mate. And I just really think what's really good about the Vengorian Lord as well is you've got the command ability where you can like heal your character's D6 wounds if you kill something. Obviously, if you roll a 1, you can't use it. So I couldn't use that, and he was creaking a little bit. He'd taken like 5 wounds. I do sleep with. I've got 3 Soulblight books now.
They prop up his pillows.
I got, thanks to Les. I've got a limited. There we go. Well, thanks to Les going at Warhammer World, I got a limited edition Soulblight one, so I'm very happy about that.
Oh, nice.
Cool. I've also got the one the UPS man stamped on, and I've also got one that I got sent as a replacement for that. So
that one's got a special right angle in it, though.
It has. It's the wrong angle with the right angle, but yeah, it's good. But I was thinking a lot about the play. So what happened is I had the zombies on the flanks, and there was a bit where basically I charged 10 direwolves into a fulminator unit, and then was able to pile in the zombies as afterwards. But I got very lucky, and there was a lot of whiffy saves, and the direwolves basically dragged the fulminator down, which is very weird. But actually, freeze on the charge is not actually too bad because they get +1 hit, +1 to wound on the charge.
Tony Moore was there today, and he was saying that he thinks they're pretty underrated, and a fine point cost.
Yeah, thanks, William. Whilst those objective mats, there are actual Facehammer objectives you can buy through the link element, and they were pretty useful actually. They've got obviously I'm saying that, but they've got like a non-slip back, and so they don't slide all over the place, and it makes the objectives quite clear. And what's nice is the crossed hammers become the point that you measure from, and because all the missions are on folds and a Warcry board, which is what I was using, you can put it on the fold, so you can line it up perfectly. So it was good. The Vengorian Lord I think is super good, Tom. So I normally deploy it in the Graveguard blob, like behind it, and also with the corpse cart nearby. So if anyone charges, hey Les, if anyone charges in to that Graveguard block on the first turn, because you're leading a knight, you get +1 save anyway because they're death rattle. They also are then worsening the rend because they're going to be within 3 of the Vengorian Lord if they want to maximise their attacks. And they're at -1 to wound. And I've done literally nothing. I've not spent a command point. I've not done anything. So I could even go all out defence. So they've got +2 save, which means you need a rend of 2 to bring them back to their 5 up. Now, one of the lists that I want to play around with is taking death rattle skeletons instead of the zombies. Because I actually think the zombies are like pretty bad.
Is it because the reason that I said, where they just die and then it doesn't matter?
Well, the problem is like a stiff breeze kills them, and they don't do anything anyway. Like you might do a couple mortals. The only issue I've got is reinforcement, because I'd rather run 2 units of 20 skellies, which is fine, but they cost more points because obviously they're 170 points for 20 skeletons, which when you compare it to 5 Chaos Knights seems like a rip-off. But then you buy 10 Bliss Bars for 180, so I can't really. But what's
we can't use my book as a comparison for anything. Let's just skim off the top and bottom, and
yeah,
it
get into the
definitely
middle
would be
ground.
the bottom.
So I think what's nice is you can be aggressive and put them out there, and then if your opponent's going to make you go first, you could basically use your grave site, pop them up from the ground. If you Legion of Night, you come up from the sides of the table as well, so you could do stuff there. It's particularly good in the Vice mission because the objectives start in the corners, so you can do stuff with that. But you literally the gravesite gives them a deathless save, and the way the skeletons work, when they charge you, they fight first because it's their go, right? Then you fight with that skeleton unit, so you get to roll 4-ups to bring them back after you've been hurt. Plus they're at +1 save. Plus they got the deathless. Plus you could still issue from the command. The command ability for the champion. No Hobbit, we haven't done Night Haunt, and we're only going to do a couple lists tonight. We're not going to do everything because we'll be here a long time, and these sort of things take a bit of effort to get through. But we will do more in the future. Don't worry. So
yeah, we definitely will. Blue Velvet and Emily, they are both worth taking, definitely in different situations. I think Sinessa, particularly if your list has cogs, so you can pick 2 spells. I think is really solid. The poke's good, and the her ranged abilities of using a CP and also using the Vein of Slanesh spell at long range means that you can pick high move targets, and I think is pretty tasty actually. So particularly Sinessa I think is great, but there's a space for Dexessa as well.
Yeah, and I think like I say, I quite like the idea of running the double Death Rattle unit and the 30 Graveguard, or actually I prefer 20 Graveguard, 20 Graveguard, 20 Death Rattle, 20 Death Rattle. But you have to lose.
A lot of board coverage.
You do, but you have to lose probably the Dire Wolves and the Corpse Cart, and you might have to downgrade the White King. So it's kind of it's one of those lists that in my head it works, and I've been trying to. Do you know, like when you've got in your head, you go, "This is the list I want to write, and this is the stuff I want to do," and you just can't. Well, obviously you do play Slash, and you can't quite. I'm sorry, I will stop this. I just you love it.
Apparently, people love it as well. So
yeah,
carry
I
on
love the pain.
Beating that dead horse for as long as we like.
Exactly, it is the thumbnail, right? Just ragging on it.
That's writing most lists in well-written books, though, isn't it? You try to have your cake and eat it, and you can't for one reason or another, or you think it's perfect.
Yeah.
And then you have game 1 and you realise that zombies are shit. Well,
they didn't die, but they would have easily to even 5 liberators. You know what I mean? It's just the reason
that's my army.
Yeah. So the actual stuff. The only reason I've got the Corpse Cut is the -1 to wound bubble. It's nothing to do with the zombies. I just don't care. The -1 to cast is also quite nice because it's 18 inches. So once you get into the meat and potatoes of the game, it's pretty good. Because as well, the new tables are you're probably about 18 inches away. It's really small.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that. So a lot of stuff that's got speeds like run and charge, you're I don't really care about that anymore because you're just on top of each other.
I think units with reroll charge just became so much better for about 700 reasons. You don't have to spend a CP. It doesn't mean you're limited to only one unit rerolling a charge in a turn, and you start off close to your opponent anyway. So you want to make sure you get there once you've got close to them, rather than being able to move 30 inches around the back of your opponent on a larger board. So yeah, definitely changed. One point about the Vengorians and debuffing that I think perhaps other people haven't twigged yet. The redeploy command ability means that people trying to keep out of your bubble, you can properly chaff them. Really, you can chaff them so hard, and it is almost impossible for people to play around. So if you have a unit that they're trying to keep out your 6 bubble, then they probably just put you within 9, but further than 3, and then you can just do a little shuffle, 1 inch, and the Vengorian is units rather than models. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff playing around that I think you can properly catch people out with, and I think bubbles got stronger in this edition. Partially as a result of that. It's such a strong ability.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, especially with the -1 to wound bubble, because they could kind of move up and you go, oh, I'll redeploy my corpse
Right.
cart. I just D6 inches, but I don't tend to
Yeah.
use redeploy because like it's D6. Like it just feels like you roll that one and you're like, what did I do that? Yeah, he
If 2 inches
can.
could get it, a 1 in 3 chance is pretty tasty, isn't it?
Yeah, Manfred can because he's got the Mortark keyword, Niels. If you look at the top of the
Yeah.
lore,
So can
it says
Neferata.
Mortark and Death Mage, so he can. You wouldn't take Law of
One of the major
Vampires.
reasons to take them.
Yeah,
No, you wouldn't.
yeah. So, yeah, Tom said the Ren's only a 3-inch, but he said that
Yeah.
there was a 6-inch wound debuff. I think that's
That's
the
on the named one.
that's the Castelli, isn't it?
Lu-
I think it's a
Is
Castelli
that
artifact.
Lucavi? Or is it an artifact?
I don't know. I think it's an artifact. I think it's
Tom will
Fragment
let
of the
us know.
Keep or something like that. That
Yeah,
might be
the
that
principle
might be the
stands for
ward
debuffs
save.
in general, though.
Yeah, it's because it does. And to be honest, even if it's you can't move within 3, but you can still reposition it to be in a better position, right?
Yeah.
So you could almost
think-
do this thing where it's just slightly far away, and they're like, oh, you've misplayed that, and they move up to charge the screen, and then you got to redeploy the Vanguard and just push it into the gap and be like, now if you charge me, you're going to be debuffed. So it's a bit techie. I tend to think just put it in the right place to start with. Yeah, Fragment of the
It's
Keep.
done.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's the artifact, I think, for Castelli. Yeah, pretty cool. I
Your
mean, I think
takeaways then, are you gonna like if you were to take pretty much that type of theme again, what if you're gonna play that tomorrow, what would you change?
probably nothing.
You like it just like that?
Originally I had I don't think I really think it's very strong. Like if I was going to a tournament, I would play that. I think the wrist I had before, because it was before the universal artifacts, I didn't have the flaming sword, I didn't have the amulet of destiny, I had the worsening the rend of shooting to nothing, and also I think I had the spell pinions on him because I didn't know what else to put on him, because it's just like they're so bad, so I didn't bother. So I don't know, like again I do think there's a death rattle list and I'd prefer that model wise. But you lose the dire wolves, I think, because you need to. How many points do you need per zombie unit? They're 115, right? So, 20 skellies is 170. So I'm gonna need 55 points. So I need 110 points. So you could lose the dire wolves, and it gives you what 25 points left over, which might give you the triumph of +1 to wound, which isn't actually a bad thing because like that's
such
good.
a good triumph.
That's good on the Grave God because they wound on 4s.
So what does Manfred wound on? Is he
2s? Because
he's got 2 to wound.
Well, he's 3s, but he's good 2s because his aura's always up, right? So
he buffs his,
So he's 2s and 2s basically everything. And he's bounce on 3s and 2s. That's why he's so good. It's like he just goes in, ignores the first wound, he heals. He's just a boss. Like Manfred is the shit. I love him.
The nice thing about the triumph, if you've got a character that wounds on 3s, is you can best day ever him and then triumph him, and you can end up with a couple of turns in a row that just feel insane.
Yeah. I think like because of the reliability of the heroes and the aura of +1/+1, the best day ever is like, I know it's good for saving that, but I always want to be healing.
Don't need it as much.
I want to be getting the command ability. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I completely forgot to use Monstrous Rampage in the game I played with my Monstrous Heroes. Because it's just like there's so much to remember. Like I'd say anyone playing games is to try and like I definitely think you need a cheat sheet. Like you need like what do I do in the hero phase, and for your army like
just
a
write down phase, like each of the phases, and then have a beginning of phase stuff and end of phase stuff and middle of phase stuff. And if you have something like that, it'll make a big difference. I had this today because of multiple things going on, like my Seeker Exalted Chariot at the end of the combat phase does or something. No, start the combat phase does some things that feel like impact hits when you've just done impact hits in the charge phase before it. So it's really easy to forget the second one because you feel like you've done that type of thing anyway. Hey,
Yeah.
Elian, how you doing? How are you, Brad?
Sup, Brad? Oh, there's such a frat boy coming in calling us all nerds. It's like I'm coming to a Warhammer stream and I'm going to call everyone a nerd. It's like,
Was it hard winning for you, Tom? Was it difficult?
Tom felt so dirty he needed a bath. Is that what you're saying, or do you mean just because you got ruined after 3 games? I reckon it's because it was so his list is so filthy.
That's getting all the love in the chat.
Yeah.
Is that so? Do you want to talk a little bit about another list? Is there anything you want to touch on from? Yeah,
I mean, technically the soul bite points are the same, so I could do it live and try and craft that death rattle list if people are interested.
Yeah. Do you want to craft that while I try and draw my thing bigger because I really want to talk about positioning.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's not a problem. So
right. You get to watch both of us working, but it'll be my back.
We're gonna be like now we'll be struggling to multitask and talk at the same time.
Oh, Brad struggles with that more than me, but that's because I task at a lower level.
Shut your face, poopy face. It's where I go on there and then like it'll go War Scroll Builder's not working or something, and like we'll go right. Okay, so all I've got to do now is add in.
Oh, of course, you're playing an up-to-date book. You're playing a book with.
Well,
points, so you can
technically, like
they should be correct. Absolutely no reason why not.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's kind of right. Let's see if this works. I'm trying to do stream stuff on the fly, which is really silly, right? There we go. Look at that. I almost feel like a pro now. Okay, so we're going to do a death. We're going to go Soulbite Gravelords. We're going to go Legion of Night, because that's the one I like. I don't have those anymore. And we'll go for Necro Manfred. Where are you? Manfred Vangorian Lord. White King or Steed. Vampire Lord. Referral Skellies. Double them up. Shall I try and write let's write the 220s. Let's see if I could do that. And then on the corpse carts. It's that one, isn't it? Yeah, well over at the moment. Okay, so what can we do? What can we do? So drop one of those. 235. What's the difference from a White King on foot? 115. Blah 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 blah. No, Franco, this is just the Vargeist. Yes, I do like them actually. I just never seem to put them on my list because I'm doing weird stuff with skeletons. There are battle line though, aren't they? So you could. That would give you 20 points. I think. Let's bin that off and make that 30. So that's all my reinforcement. I've got 105 points left. So I reckon I could take Ratzer for 95. I've only got oh, you could take another corpse cart, right? Is that gonna be crap? So the reason to take the Rat Prince, right? So Warlord familiar is like a big leader. So that's you've got 2. You've got Manfred and you've got the Vanguard Lord. Then like 2 small leaders and a unit. So you could literally put like the corpse cart and maybe one of the Death Rattle Skellies. Then you could do the Hunters of the Halfland for Death Rattle and the Graveguard to make them immune. The Rat Dude is I mean it could be you could take Belladama as well because you've got another 10 points. So you could take I actually think she's quite good.
She's tasty, yeah. So
just because she kind of like sticks around longer, although the rat guy comes back, it's like sometimes you're just better off having the model stick around. So that gives you an extra enhancement. So obviously you can't give it to Kritzer but you do get an extra artifact, and they're quite good in Legion and Knight. So obviously,
they
like
are
the
tasty.
Necro can have the claw, the Vengorian Lord can have the 5-up, and then the White King could take something cool.
I disagree with you, Theodoro. I actually think the zombie dragon's quite expensive for when you look at the other monster things in the book. I don't think he's the obvious choice that he used to be. Nick, I'll answer your question while Russ is doing some thinking. Painbringers as battle line as units of 5. It's not as bad as it sounds.
It's the tax, though, isn't it?
What is bad is taking the Lord of Pain to
Yeah.
make them battle line.
Well,
Okay,
he is
because
the Lord of
you're not.
Pain. He's not meant to be. You feel
He
good.
is good looking model, but paying 200 points for 100 whatever it is, 1,000,000 points for 5 dudes.
And then
it feels pretty grim anyway. But yeah, then adding his 155 on top, you didn't pay 160 for them. You paid, like whatever it is, 200, 305 points or 315 or whatever to get them as battle line. So I think taking one unit not as battle line, because the battle line is actually very good anyway, or essential in the case of the Bliss Barbs. If you want some ranged shooting, is the way to go. You could go House Riders, House Riders, House Riders, and then take a unit of 10 Painbringers or something like that. So yeah. Someone's building Belladonna right now. What do you think of the Verkos bloodline from Robert Viscomi?
I like it. I think, like, for me, like with all the bloodlines, I think they're all viable. It just doesn't sing to me, and it doesn't mean it's not good. It's just I like either magic, shenanigans, trickery, or I like ram it in your face blood knights. There isn't really much in between with me. The only reason I'm not really a big fan of the Vikros is because I don't really like the aesthetic of the new models that are in that dynasty. I still think it's very strong. I mean, obviously, re-rolling casts is great. +1 to wound rolls. There's lots of cool abilities they can do. Like bringing on direwolves. I think I did toy with Radagar the Beast in this list because he can do the +1 attack thing, and you get a unit of direwolves for free. The only issue
He's kind of interesting just on his own, isn't he?
Yeah, so the Vengorian Lord could get swapped out for him. But the problem is, like, he's just not as good as a Vengorian Lord, and he's more expensive, and then his attack is conditional. Because you've got ways to get plus to cast with stuff like Mortis Engine, Corpse Carts, Morbeg's Claw, I just don't think you need the rerolls. It just doesn't. It doesn't really do it for me. Like, it doesn't mean they're not good. I mean, I think they're solid. If you had to tell me like which bloodline do you think's bad, I don't think any of them are bad, and that's why I think the book's a triumph, really. So I can't really think of a list that I could write with this book. If you said you had to write a Vikros list, I'd be able to write one that I'd be happy with. It's not a problem. And like, I'm not trying to rub it into you, Byron. I'm like, oh, my book's lovely.
Yeah.
But it's like it does feel like that. It does literally feels like that. Like, I really like Castelli. I think like Tom's list with lots of Blood Knights is great. I think Blood Knights are fantastic. I actually really like Avangori.
Tom was saying today that he thinks that Soulblight's probably it's one of there's like the most variety of lists coming out of that one book that we've probably seen from any book in recent times. I think there's so many coming out that are just solid. It's an amazingly flexible battle tome.
Yeah, I think so, and like it's good. Like I'm trying to come up with this army, because the thing is, what I really wanted to do with it is if I ditch. I don't know if I want him in. I think I'd rather have 2 corpse cards, but I think that's really what I would do.
Yeah,
it gives me 25 points for triumph.
Chance for triumph is great.
Yeah. Obviously, you've basically swapped the zombies out, and you've lost the direwolves. That's essentially what you've done. Like, and you've gained the chance at triumph. Yeah, I don't know. You could technically, with that 25 points I'll use the term loosely, upgrade the Vengorian Lord. And that's what I was talking about. You could basically make him Radikar the Beast.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's 10 points over. That's a pain, isn't it? You'd have to change the
could
white
take-
steed
You
to
could take
a
Luke
foot.
of I.
Yeah, but
isn't-
she's Avangori though, so, and she doesn't do the same. She doesn't quite have the same stuff. She can't have artifacts, so I'm not so sure. But like, if you took
Yeah.
Radikar, this is just an example. I'm not actually going to do it. I think it's worse. But you could take Radikar the Beast, and basically drop out the Vengorian Lord, and then put in the White King on foot instead of the horse one. Just about enough points, and that get you the 10 direwolves for free. But I just think you're giving up so much doing that. I just don't think it's worth it.
When you're trying that hard for something, it's often difficult, isn't it?
It's like, are the direwolves
what do
really
you-
that good? No, let's not worry about it.
No,
So
they're just. Would you not consider going to Lauka? Well, that's the same question as me.
let's have a look then. I in my head no, but let's actually have a look.
She debuffs, so I think she's more of a utility piece than I initially thought, at least having faced her today.
So essentially, she's got 1 extra wound, so fine. She's
Like the spell.
basically same. Yeah, the spell is good. So it's on an 8. Charge rolls for enemy units within 12.5, so obviously that's pretty strong. She's got a command ability which is add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by Soulblight Gravelord's monsters that target enemy units, so kind of really only affects her. She's got the Avangori dynasty keyword, so she can't have the Legion of Night keyword. You lose your artifact sort of shelf with the. Actually, I'd rather have a Vengorian with a 5-up ward. She's still got the same rules. The only difference is she's got the champion Avangori. After she makes a charge, pick an enemy unit within 1. Roll dice for the charge, roll a 5-up, take a mortal wound. So she's exactly the same combat profile. Yeah. So no, I would take the Vengorian Lord because I like his heal. I like Clotted Deluge as well. This is add 1 to wound rolls for attacks, melee weapons that target the enemy unit within 12. So you Clotted Deluge the unit that you want to hit with the whites, so they get the +1. So no, I think the Vengorian Lord is better in this list.
What do you think of Nagash? Because we had that question as well. How do you feel about him now? Not in this list, but in general. I think the question meant in general these days. Let me just double check.
Nagash. I'll be honest with you. I don't play Nagash. I don't own a Nagash. I do own a Nagash. He's not assembled, right? So, I've heard from other people that play him a lot that what he's really good at is he's really good at being your linchpin of all your missions. Because he's a monster and you can use the grand strategies and you can use to keep a wizard alive and he's a wizard. He could be a general as well. There's so many of the grand strategies you can just smash the missions with. Obviously, new edition, you can Arcane Bolt multiple times. You've got all-out defense. You've got his attack profile that you can buff with other command abilities, even stuff like his spell lore, his command ability itself, which is re-roll hit rolls of 1 and save rolls of 1, is very strong because there aren't many things in the game that give you re-rolls. In the Soulblight book, for example, there's not a lot of your saves and your hit rolls, so you get a lot of pluses, you just don't get re-rolls. So. And obviously the command abilities are pluses, the spells are plus. So his command ability is particularly strong. So yes, he's very good, but he has 980 points. I think. Was he 970? He's almost 1,000.
He's basically 1,000, isn't he?
No, Shelty does not need the Vitcross keyword for the vampire keyword, so he can reroll everything. No, please don't do that. That would be horrific.
It can Mystic Shield your entire army. God, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, you can cast 8 Mystic Shields, so if you really want to.
Oh,
so
God. Wow. I hadn't thought about that.
I mean, he's very good, but you don't have much of an army to Mystic Shield. I certainly wouldn't
No.
run him with with zombies, because you need stuff that sticks around. Like, there's no point Mystic Shielding a zombie unit, right?
No, you need something maybe like, I know they're like
Skellies.
Black Knights or something, like
Yeah.
something
Death
fastish
Rattle.
with an all right amount of wounds.
Even
Yeah.
direwolves, to be honest, are fine. Like,
Yeah, I could see that. You could put a corpse cart next to him for debuffing and have some direwolves about or something like that. Wouldn't be too bad.
yeah, I don't
He's-
play
I
Nagash.
think-
He's too all or nothing for me.
I think he's a very interesting way to get things that you would spend CPs on without spending CPs. So perhaps some things that you would lose in your army, you make up for in the fact that you don't need to use all-out defense, or you could stack all-out defense on that important thing or whatever it was. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I always used to like the cute list with like 2 units of 2 Morghasts.
Yeah.
Him, and then barely anything else, and it was like this crazy utility ball that you just had to make work. But
Yeah, I agree, Stubble, that the Black Knights should be Graveguard stats on horses. Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't work with zombies. I'm just not a fan of zombies. So
yeah, I thought that would be the end result, because having played with Savage Oryx, stuff with 6-up saves or barely any saves or any resilience, it doesn't matter how cheap it is, you just feel bad when you play with it because anything touches it and it dies. It's just crap. It doesn't matter how much other special stuff it's got, if it's dead, or if you feel you can't put it anywhere because it's going to die, which is how I feel about Bliss Barbs in any position other than being 18 inches away from someone.
yeah, for sure. What's your diagram about them? Why don't you talk about that?
Right. So this is kind of specific to Slaanesh. I'm probably mirrored here. I realise that in retrospect, so my writing is going to mean nothing to anyone. But the diagram is now bigger and should hopefully be clearer. Let me know, people, because
I can see it, but I've got a desktop, so it's
sweet. So what we've got here is
well, if
any
you love
large
them
monster
zombies, Hend, I'll play zombies. You do what you do. You do you.
What we've got here is any large monster of an opponent's or a general or a key piece or something like that. A couple of cav units, but they could be 10 blocks of infantry or something. And then the way that I am trying to cover board space with Slaanesh, which is what this isn't particular to Slaanesh. This is how I think good play looks on a table. Not that I always get completely by myself, but this is the idea. So you make the most of unique rules that you have with your units, or unique parts to them, like Hellstriders having 3-inch reach. It's marked here because it's so important. So with it being bigger, this should be a bit easier. So demon heroes in Slaanesh on a 4+ or a 3+ if they're a greater demon. At the beginning of combat, you roll a dice for 1 unit that you are within 1 inch of, and on a 3+, that unit cannot pile in. And that's a really good way to protect your squishy stuff, because you don't have to worry about, +1 to save or debuffing your opponent or anything like that. If only 1 out of 5 models can attack, you're taking 1/5 less damage anyway immediately. So the way that I tend to play my army is prioritizing things that have got reroll to charge and stuff like that, because I need as much of my army to get in for things like this to work, because it only works if most of the units get in where I'm planning. So we've got 5 of cavalry from opponent, 5 of cavalry. I've put my Hellstriders in, and then we've got a keeper and a chariot here. Now, if you're going to lean into stopping someone from piling in, you can just go in right in the middle. That's absolutely fine. But what I like to do is sneak things around the edges, because when they end up around the edges, you put your opponent in a position, let's say it goes here, you put your opponent in a position where you cover so much of the board that their flee paths are restricted, which is amazing, because in this position, your opponent can't come up the table whatsoever. I only found out today that flee rolls you don't add a dice to anymore as well. It's just your normal move, isn't it?
Yeah, because you can't run, because that's a special thing.
Yeah, so that was big news to me, and makes stuff like this way more powerful. So let's say you got unit here, and then the other chariot goes around the edge, or you stay slightly in front. What you end up doing is forcing your opponent to run backwards and then plan to charge the same thing again. So you end up kind of bullying your opponent up the table in waves. And while you're doing this, if you've done this right and this unit can't pile in, You put stuff with 1 inch reach, which is average. You put it, like, so one of the models is within 1 and the other one's 1.1 inches away. Then you're in a position where only one of your opponent's Blood Knights, whatever it is, can attack you back. And it doesn't matter how tough your Marauders are. Their 4-up save and -1 to hit might be absolutely fine then.
Yeah.
So in this situation, it's how I've been trying to farm depravity and cover the board and force my opponent into bad positions. And basically, if you're annoying your opponent as much as possible, not by making strange noises, but by doing things on the table, you're probably doing the right thing. Because if they're frustrated and they can't get to the place they want to, then they're not getting to play the game on your terms. And especially if you have a fragile army or an overpointed army or an army that you feel is struggling, you have to do stuff like this on the table. And historically, the good players who've taken average armies who've done really well, they're doing a lot of stuff like this on the table. Yeah, I wanted to show that because I think it's very easy for people to take cavalry and just put them in this shape, or like lines or crescents or something like that, and they've not considered this. If I wanted, these two don't have to exist, and I could be in some weird, strange, because I've got 3-inch reach, I could be like this in some really strange, like, dart formation, still getting to attack, but just one of the horses is getting to attack, but it's not about the horses, it's more about the riders. And I'm still managing to completely restrict my opponent's position here. So yeah, that's it's just something that I wanted to show on the board because I think people don't particularly consider that stuff. And it's very easy to feel like your units are awful or are really squishy if you just take your body instrument and put it into someone else's and theirs is better, then of course they're going to feel really bad. So it's just the way to get the most out of your unit.
Yeah.
Russ plays very well putting things in waves, and often he has debuffing things behind the front wave as well. I don't have access to that so much in my army I'm playing at the moment, but vampires really do. And that's very, very powerful as well.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's like playing on an onion, isn't it? So it's kind of like you need to do it. So I'll just show you what I was talking about with
Welcome, Stubble. Thank you so much.
Cheers, man. So you have
Night
to
time.
I'm doing this with a mouse and I'm tired and it looks a bit shit. So I just like
Are you
just
doing some Microsoft Paint drawing?
yes.
Good.
It's
I love them.
It's a whiteboard. It's not very good. It's a bit chaffy. Okay, so say for example, this is your corpse cart. This is your Vanguard Lord. This is your Graveguard blob. Okay, so what you want is this distance here to be less than 3, basically. So like 2. Obviously, this is a bit out of scale, but you imagine this is 2 lines of Graveguard in a line, right, that we're talking about. So the idea here is you've got your corpse cart here, which has got your 9, and from here, so anything that comes in. Now, what you can do is put your zombies like this, and you could put a corpse cart here and a corpse cart here, and the 9 will cover the middle. So you don't actually need to put the corpse cart here. This could be Manfred, or it could be whatever, and then you could put like your White King like here, your Necro here, your Vampire here. As long as that is wholly within 12, then that gives you the +1 attack command. So this is for setting up. So if you're saying this is your deployment zone, that's your opponent, right? That's your deployment line. Obviously, it'll be straight and not a complete disaster of a straight line. But you would say that obviously you're going to put your characters like this. You'll put a zombie blob, and then you'll have a corpse cart. Then you've got this is Manfred. This is the Vengorian. So you've got this kind of setup, and the dogs. A lot of people put the dogs in a screen. Now, I don't want a screen because what I want is I want my opponent to charge and go, I can take those because they're not buffed yet. And you're like, yeah, sure, go on then, have a go. Now, what I would normally do with because it depends on the board set, but let's say this is the board, right? So you've got to put 2 grave sites in your territory. So I want a defensive one that's going to be like my summoning point. And let's say that's your opponent's territory.
That's liked Roman deployment strats. He's spoken to me about them before.
Yeah, like
it feels like a Roman ACEs.
I like phalanxes and diffuse flanks and things like that. So something like you've got your you've got your grave site here. I should probably change the color. So let's just that makes more sense. So if we say blue, so that's a grave site there, that's a grave site there. Now, what you want to do is, depends on where the objectives are. You might want to put one grave site kind of off here, and then maybe one central, because what they do is they give you a bubble that looks like a nipple, sorry, that gives you a deathless save. But what you could do is, rather than set the dire wolves up as a screen in front of your army, put them in the grave, because if you go first, now these guys are only movement 4, so the one thing I've thought about with the formation is maybe what I can do is I can go for 1 drop, so I get the choice, because you could put the grave guard in the graves and literally put them in the middle of the table like that. Then you could run these up to be behind, right?
We spoke about this with skeletons initially when we looked at the book, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like, you pop them out, and if they make the charge, great, and if they don't, you've got stuff standing behind them that's debuffing your opponent when they hit them.
And then what you've done here is you've kind of created your line, but it's moved a lot further than here.
And
because what you'll find is when you move your line up, you're literally, put my nipple back, so you're literally going to be here. And what I found is my grave guard were here, my opponent's unit, let's give him a nice green, we're here. Okay, now I had an 8-inch charge, and what I did is I was like, well, I need to get this stuff in position. So my Vangorian was actually here, but let's just, forget it. Let's say it's this side. The Vangorian can
Hello,
fly.
Matt.
So
we love you. I
used
your tokens today. They were excellent.
in the Ratara style. I thought I said something else then.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, sorry.
Much appreciated.
That's okay. It's what I'm here for. And
Nothing's
then
fair.
Manfred goes over here. Chap goes here. Vampire can fly. Goes over here. Necromancer's done his claw, so he sits there. They've got Van Hels on. Now that's fine as long as you make that 8-inch charge. Because what you want to do then is you want to charge like the Vengen into this unit. You can tag stuff on the side. Manfred sort of here if you run high, or here, depending if they've left gaps, and then your White King tagging in with your Grave Guard, and that is just going to die. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care. It's going to die.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's in a vacuum. This is just the position I was in today. There were other units sort of around here that I didn't care about. And what I found is the Grave Guard failed, and I had my characters hanging out with their ass in the wind. And I was like, that's not great. But
CP give you more options these days, don't they? Because if something doesn't work, then you're like, okay, well, that didn't work. I was sitting on 2 CP. I will use one on all-out defense that I wasn't, that I was planning on using on something offensive on the graveyard guard or whatever.
But I found Manfred just went straight into the middle of my opponent's army, into 3 units,
started doing his stuff,
and just went, I don't care. Like, hit me.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. He had Mystic Shield on. I put all-out defense on him in the combat phase. He was like, yeah, whatever. In your go. You're good. And I charged a unit of shooters at the back. I charged a unit of adjudicators. I rolled high enough to go over the top and hit them. But I also dragged in a character and another character, and I was in tag of the combat unit as well that I was fighting in the middle. So he was basically surrounded by 4 things. The Vangorian Lord went nuts. Like, it went nuts. Flaming Sword Vangorian Lord. Don't ask me why. Did wiped out. The unit was on, I think it was on a 3-up armor save with a 5-up ward save, and I killed, and it had 20 wounds in it. I think I did 17 wounds to the unit with the Vangorian Lord.
Yeah,
which is kind of lucky.
I got completely owned by a best day ever Vangorian Lord today. I think it did the 12 remaining wounds on my keeper, who had a 5-up after save. He made sure he hit. He did best day ever, and then +1 hit. So made sure he hit, made sure he wounded, and my save wasn't great. And then his D6 damage went nuts, and I was dead. And that was it.
Yeah, I do like.
You have a specific question. So if you were playing with this army against a shooty opponent, which unit would you be the most concerned to lose early on? Good question from Molotron.
The good thing about Legion of Night is you can set your army up off the table. So if there's something they're going to go first, like say you're playing KO, they've really gone into the low drop, and they're like, I'm going to shoot off Manfred. I'm just not putting them on the table.
Yeah.
because I can keep him off the table. That is completely fine. I do not need him on the table. The things in the army that I would worry about losing, actually, the corpse carts are a big deal and they're very easy to kill. But people don't shoot at them, so it's fine. Necromancer's a big deal, but he's very hard to kill because he's got the 4-up bounce, and he's got death save, and he's got lookout sir, and people just don't. He's easy to hide as well. Like he's not too bad. Zombies will just die. Literally just die, and that's why I prefer Skelly Bobs. They could just rinse the Graveguard, which might actually be a good option because they don't really have a very good armor save, but they do in the first battle round, especially high Ren shooting, because you go and they're summonable, so you can heal them. So unless they wipe them out, and you can have a command point either champion to go, boom. Actually, Nick, I do coaching, so the highest Patreon tier will get a 1-to-1 list tech and teaching lessons, and soon we'll be launching the Facehammer Academy for more one-on-one coaching sessions. And if you're interested, just drop us a contact and I can talk to you about that. So
check out the Patreon, dude. It'd be monthly kind of helping your list evolve in the context of whatever meta or whatever events you have or what objectives you like to achieve with it. You know, like more successful, more fun, more, you know, bit of column A, bit of column B, whatever. And thank you, Stubble. We're going to do more stuff like this. Russ and I really enjoy it. So
yeah,
and this is like, I don't think people try and teach this stuff much. You can talk about lists all you want. You know, it's not a bad thing to do. We've just done it. Obviously, we don't think it's a bad thing to do. Go to our Patreon, Nick. There's a link in the description. I'll find you a link in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shapes, I always talk about the shapes of things on the table because I'm a very visual person. And lining this stuff up right makes such a huge difference. It is unbelievable. It's absolutely massive. So yeah, really important thing.
If you want to as well, contact me directly, Nick, because the Patreon at the moment is a very specific thing. It's the champion tier, which is a list tech and a sort of a talk through of how to use it and a cheat sheet. If you want to have more sort of one-to-one stuff, then just either email us for the contact or DM me on Discord. So you can go to the Discord and message me, or Twitter, or in the comment, and I can get in touch with you. Drop me an email, contact@facehammer.co.uk. Something like that. We'll sort it out. We'll work something out. So
Absolutely.
So what I was talking about with the death rattle stuff, right? So let's say we've got the same sort of scenario. You've got your opponent's army up here, and you're kind of like, right, what I want to do is I want to be aggressive. So I want to let's just say, for instance, we're playing a mission like we're playing the one that's got the 5, right, like this. Okay, and your setup is here, and there. That's your territory. I think this one is called Savage Gains. So they're deployed here, right? So I want to put my gravesite. So I want a gravesite kind of here, and I want a gravesite kind of here, and I probably want one here, and I might want one off to the side to be sneaky, depending on. I don't know, they haven't deployed yet, so I might want to put one kind of off to the side on one side like this on the edge, or I just want to put another one back here. It doesn't really matter. It really does depend on what you're facing, and I'm not 100% sure, but if you only got one spawn point next to your objective, you might want one off the objective because your summonable units can come back. Now, what I would want to be doing here is I want to be putting Death Rattle Skellions 9 away here and here, right? So what this does is it basically caps these. Now, a lot of the missions are like, take an objective. So if I go first, I'm going to take 2 objectives. That's my battle tactic. I'm going to score on the mission, probably the max anyway, so probably 3. So that's 5. And I'm like, good job's a good one. Now, what I can do with my army is I can almost push the Graveguard up to here. And if you're using Vanguard, you might be able to run a corpse cart to get within range, because this is probably only 18 inches, right? So a corpse cart is movement 4. If it's in the Vanguard, you can do an auto 6. So that's 10 plus a 9. So you should, to be honest, be able to put a corpse cart here, which is going to bubble you, right? If you're doing it right. So if you're going, well, I'm going to take the double. I'm going to let them come at me. You could, depending on what you deployed. If you deployed Corpse Cart, Manfred, Vangorian, Necro, Vamp, you've got 6 units on the table, so you can put off all your summonable. So you could even drop, you can even drop your Graveguard if you really wanted to. But what you're doing here is you're really saying, right, I want to make you come and attack my Skellies. Okay, so you've got your gravesite, you've got your deathless, you might have a debuff, you might not. I mean, like you just might not, and that's not a big deal. It's fine. And what you're doing there, okay, is you're basically saying to your opponent, you've got to get them off. Skellies aren't that resilient, but in Legion of Night, you're +1 save in the first battle round. You've got a deathless save, you get rerolls on ones because you've got a banner. When skeletons attack on a 4+, they stand back up. So you let them charge you, and say they charge you here and here. They've probably got enough combat power to wipe one out, right? You're going to lose a unit, probably. But they're summonable, so they come back, so we don't care. So we're like, okay, fine. So what you do then is you go, right, you've charged me in, that's fine. You have to look at the situation. You might use something like redeploy. If they move something and they leave, you can even push your unit up further so they can't get near the objective. You can almost like zone it out. But anyway, it's a bit tacky, but because the unit champion can issue it, so you don't need a hero there, right? So they charge in, do damage. If you survive, which is you can do all that defense on one of them, you can't do it on both. If you survive, great. You've probably stopped them capping an objective, right? If they die, okay, so their army's going to be like kind of here and here, chaffed up, right? If you've given them, if you're then going facing a double and you've still got your Graveguard debuff blob here with all your stuff, they might be able to get to you. If they then overcommit here, if they get you double, and you kind of you should, to be honest, not stuff's going to be that quick to get to you. You should just survive that. If you don't, then you've just been a bit unlucky because they've gone through 3 very defensive units with their army very quickly. What you could do is, obviously, at the end of the battle shock, even in the go they die, you get a roll of dice if they come up. So you could put basically your guys here and here. You might just get the 10 skeletons back. You might just go, well, you've gone in, you've done your damage, you've stopped you scoring, you might have wiped one out, you probably won't wipe the other one out, you've been chaffed up a bit. I've got the unit back anyway, half strength, which is going to be a half strength because you've killed a load anyway, so it's fine. Then what allows you to do is counter-attack with the Graveguard if you need to, if you get the turn, right? All the characters, and then like Manfred and the Vangorian could go over here, and the White King and the Graveguard could go here. So it just gives you like, they kind of like mobile speed bumps, and I just think that adds a lot more than what zombies add to, because zombies...
I completely agree, because they just disintegrate and they give you no options.
No, they just die. So you're like, a zombie unit just goes in and goes, well, yeah, I'm here, but...
if I attack first, I do some mortals and I feel a bit sneaky, and then I'm dead.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what happens next. You're dead.
No, exactly.
And couple of questions in there. Electman, we've covered it more throughout in terms of, I was considering this, or I needed to be able to hold my opponent off in this way. We will do a general list building one at some point in the future if that's something that people would find useful in a more generic sense. We will also, James Dean, thank you very much. We will be doing specific list building for specific factions in the future, and we'll probably put some of them down to public vote. So whatever people would like to see the most is the thing that we will build on. And even if we don't collect these factions ourselves, we've got enough info to be able to guess at a good one, or like 3 iterations of a Skaven list or something, to take an example that was asked about earlier.
Yeah, and we're going to try and cover off, like, obviously the edition's just dropped. Everything's changed. It almost feels like, I don't know, maybe we should talk about how the game feels overall. Like, I think it almost feels like playing a new game.
Oh, it does. It does completely. Being able to react to your opponent is changed absolutely everything about the game. Rerolls being there less, huge units being around less, which is actually another strength of the list that Russ was just talking about. If it feels and looks quite big on the table in terms of having several units that aren't 10 or less dudes, that's a lot less common now.
Yeah, I think 25 mil bases allows you to do that.
Yeah.
So like the Graveguard could technically deploy the skeletons in a line of 20, single line, because the base is less than an inch. So when you have the guys in a row, so if I just they do actually have a helpful circle on this. I do need to get. I do have a drawing pad that I meant to do this with, but I haven't got that yet. So if you imagine these 25mm bases, right? So this is the end man. Let's just go for a unit of like 5. Just an example, show you what I'm talking about. So with coherency, you've got to be inch away of 2 models, right? If you've got more than 5, obviously this is just 5, but let's just pretend there's 10. Right, just double it up. It's fine. There's no copy and paste on this. That's why I hate it. But here you go. So this is an inch.
Illumina first.
Okay, is bigger than this base. So there's 1, 2 models within an inch on the end guy. So actually, if this line was 20 long, no model breaks it. And even if you took, as long as you don't take this model, you could even take this model out, and this model would still be in one of this and one of this, and this model would be within one here, but also and this one would be one here. So you imagine this line is longer. So let's just just pretend it's like this. Okay. So there you go. It's like that. So if you take that model out, you're still in coherency. Obviously not overlapping bases in one way, but you get the idea. If you're touching edges like that, you'll be like completely fine. So there's no like
spaces or less unlocks a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. So there's no like the 25mm bases, you could take them from the middle. So even when people have these snipes and they go on to kill your model in the middle, you're immune. It's not going to affect you because like they have to kill 2 models and next to each other to break you. So you can put the skellies in 20 in the line. I would suggest no, because you don't want the attacks coming back at you, but it's viable, it does work. So it's quite good for stuff like Mortec Guard as well, if you want to be quite aggressive. But yeah, it's interesting. Because a lot of people just think that coherency is a big deal. That means 25mm bases almost gone up in stock.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
there's plenty of Lumineth lists that will help you keep your friends and will be fun and will be competitive. James Dean, it's a very flexible book. We could definitely
like
talk about that at some point in the future.
60 Sentinels tech lists. Is that how it works? Is that fun? Is that fun?
No, you don't take tech lists if you want friends.
No, you just take Nagash because he's better, right?
Nagash will help you keep your friends, actually, in comparison to tech
Nagash
lists.
is awesome. He's the best in the world. Even though I don't play him and I don't have him, but yeah, it's because I think he's too good for playing with. That's the thing. He shouldn't be on the table. He's a god. We should let his minions do the fighting. The Mortark should be doing the heavy lifting. Come on. So I think we've talked a lot about AOS 3. We've done some lists. We've talked about stuff. Is there anything you want to talk about before we wrap up, or we?
No, not in particular. While we're here, people can ask a couple of quick questions if they got any further ones. But I'm really enjoying it. I am surprised by how difficult I found it to remember stuff. And I definitely think a cheat sheet would be helpful for that. I would recommend in particular that people take the command abilities and put them in some format where they're written down on the same page with the turn that you use them next to them, because they're the easier things to forget and they're one of the most important things in the game as it stands currently. And yeah, we touched on it before already, but if you are taking a new army, try and familiarize yourself with its rules a lot beforehand, and maybe take something, I'm not encouraging spam, but maybe take something that doesn't have 12 different war scrolls in it, because trying to keep up with your abilities, your debuffs, your spells, check this book and that book while you're trying to learn a new edition, I just think it's too much. It's like what's it called where you try and tie your opponent out by making them take too many decisions.
Is it a roper Is that you let him just punch himself out, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're doing that to yourself.
Well, Warhammer is the way I describe Warhammer to people who don't know anything about wargaming and want to understand what the kind of competitive sort of level of is. It's kind of like risk management and contingency, and basically the best thing you can do is make your opponent make choices. Yeah. So when you play a game and you basically engaging them in a certain way and you attack in a certain way, you tie everything up. The only thing they can do is attack the obvious thing, cast the obvious spell, do the obvious thing.
Yeah.
If you give someone, it's a bit like if you gave someone a drawing and you said, "Here's a drawing, add color it in." If you gave someone a blank piece of paper and you went, "Draw me something," they'll probably go, and then draw something, and then they've not, because you're basically giving them nothing to react to, and that's why going first and being super aggressive can be a problem, because what you've almost done is you've almost laid the table out how it's going to play out the game, and you've gone, here's the game, and then they can then react to it, and that's sometimes easier because you don't need to think as hard about decisions because you don't have multiple things to think about. It's fairly obvious. Obviously, like if you're being aggressive and you know the decisions they make are kind of like damned if they do, damned if they don't, that's just good play. When you make someone where I want to do this, but if I do that, this happens. That's kind of like another level. But it's one of those things that this edition, because you've got so many more choices to make with your battle tactics, your grand strategies, your command point resource, where you do all out attack, where you all out defense, where you're positioning your models. There is an awful lot to think about. It is a bit of I'll use the term mindfuck.
Yeah.
And I think it's steep. It's a kind of like, although the rules might seem laid out nicely and kind of obvious and you read them and they're numbered, the actual play is actually quite difficult to get your learning curve there. I think
Absolutely. Putting things in the right place will take a lifetime.
I think it kind of feels a little bit not as bad as 7th, but when I used to play 7th edition Warhammer, you didn't have to have a good list, right? I played Tomb Kings and I would table people and they were meant to be the worst, right? So basically you could play people that would make a mistake or out of position and you could punish them for it. This edition feels closer to that. Not quite as bad. It's not quite as one-sided, but there is an element of that, and I quite like that. I quite like that the play, it's less about having silly net lists of, I've got this list that I read on a forum and I see I can play my 2 turns and you don't do anything until you have your go, and then I've probably either killed you or I haven't, a la KO, 1-drop, clown car, whatever. Now you've got to be a little bit more like, yeah, but you can do that, but I can do this, and I can do this, I can redeploy here, I can do that. So I think Gracie, I mean, I don't think small is a big deal. I would say small in terms of less war scrolls.
Yeah.
So if you're playing an army like Soulblight, the list I put up was quite complex. It had lots of combos, it had lots of things, but you could play a Soulblight army that's literally 3 Terrorgeist, 2 Vengorian Lords, and a Zombie Dragon, and that's not very complicated because you've got less rules to learn. But you get
to master your hero phase, your combat phase, your other stuff, because you're not trying to, do 700 things or find 15 different, once a game abilities from scrolls or stuff like that.
Yeah, and I would say play the points limit of the game that you're going to be playing at. So if you're going to be playing tournaments, then stay at 2K. If you're going to be playing like your club and you normally play 1,000 points, play 1,000 points. Like, I don't see the point of escalation type stuff unless you're doing Path to Glory and you want to have a narrative thing. It doesn't really matter then. But if you're looking at competitive play in the handbook, the only 2 points is 1,000 or 2,000. So pick one. Most tournaments would be 2,000. If you're into competitive play or pickup games, most people want to be playing 2,000 points. That's from my experience, but that's the environment I play in, right? So
if you play small games, you'll turn up and you'll have, I don't know, like a Vampire Lord on foot, and it'll seem like the best thing ever. But you won't learn how to play against monsters or something like that. So definitely 2,000 points is where I'd recommend it, unless you just literally want to learn the raw mechanics of the game. In which case, I would start at least 750, but probably 1,000.
Yeah. I would say like do something like that. I mean, like there's no right or wrong in the day. Like if you just getting your head around War Scrolls, but I think if you play the list, that I do think there's something to be said to try and play something simple that doesn't have too many complicated rules. That is fairly easy to use. It's fairly easy to construct. Something like Sons of Behemat would be a perfect army.
Destruction's got a lot of good armies.
Yeah, Iron Jaws, I guess, would be good. Although they can be quite techy actually, so maybe not. something like like Beast Claw, Beast Claw Raiders, Deepkin,
Double
Deepkin,
stop it. Yeah, Deep not bad.
because you can
So
basically
you've
go like just eel list, or you can do a mixed eel. Anything that's fairly small, especially if you're not very comfortable writing lists. If you have a smaller pool of scrolls to pick from, it kind of makes it easier.
yeah. And when you
So
have your list, if you've got something that's got 3 main war scrolls and a couple of chaff units, that's perfect. That's a really good
yeah,
level to be at. So, for example, Tom's list today was Lucavi, Vengorian Lord, Blood Knights, and Felbats, and that was it.
yeah.
Basically, really, really good level to be at. Andrew Begg, do you feel you need the core book if you have the General's Handbook strictly rules wise?
100% no, because any event will use the battle pack that's in here, and the core book one's not used, and you
Not least the
have
case.
all the core rules. It's going to be backwards, I know. Don't tell me off. So all the core rules here, and so you've got your battle plans, you've got your battle pack. So basically everything in the book. It also comes with a command ability cheat sheet on the back, so it allows you to basically have that on the table. And what's quite useful about it, for me, this you buy this, don't buy the rulebook. Like, unless you're interested in the background, you have like your
Which there's
mission.
loads and it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I will say it is. I mean, if you want to play Path to Glory as well, which is awesome, Sam's did a really good job. And it also has a deployment map. So that's Savage Games. That's the one I played. And you can put that as an A-frame on the table, so you can see it. It's clear. It's got your victory points down the side. So it's really useful. And it's got a little bookmark type thing.
No worries, Andrew, I get it. Although
So
Dominion is something that's just amazing value for money. So if you want one of the armies from Dominion, you could get that and then trade or sell off the rest on eBay or something like that.
yeah, and like the core book is still good if you want to, like, because to be honest, the lore in it is amazing, the art's amazing. But if you're going to events, you don't really want to be carrying it around with you.
Yeah. Also the army showcases and stuff, it's just nice to have a little bit
Yeah.
of variety in there.
Yeah, so definitely a great book. Yeah, but I think that's pretty much it. So thanks everyone for tuning in tonight, and hopefully you've all had a good day. And yeah, I've run out of pre-recorded videos now, so I'll have to do something before we put the next one up. But
No worries. I've got some games under my belt, so I've got plenty of actually informed stuff to say at this point. I can't argue that it's correct, but it's way more informed than it was.
yeah, yes, Blue Velvet, all the core rules, core battalions are all in the back of the handbook. So everything that's in the core rules is in the handbook for the core rules. The only thing that's not is the matched play pack in the core rules, and the like narrative stuff and the open play and the siege rules,
It's
all
all
that
cheap.
stuff. So
You're welcome.
yeah, we will be doing more live streams. So as we get a few more members, we'll be doing some extra content just for legionaries. So if you want to have access to that, then upgrade your tier. And again, obviously, if you become a member, you're going to be entered in the prize draw, and you could win a Dominion, which is pretty awesome. If I don't say so myself, but it's worth going for it and just getting the chance.
Absolutely. Also, now people are playing games, do check out our objective templates. They are super practical.
Oh yeah, I found them really
can't
useful
recommend them enough.
today.
They're out on the table, weren't they?
Yeah.
I saw them. Tom left with some. He didn't have them, then he bought them.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you regulars who have tuned in. Thank you to all of you newcomers. Any questions at all, as ever, feel free to post them in the comments, follow us on the social medias, etc. And please do, I will find a link to it now. Please do feel free to join the Discord,
Yeah.
because if you want, to ask other people as well as us what they think of your list or whatever, that is the link to go to. We'll have to copy and paste it. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah,
It's
I had a
on
really
the,
good time yesterday night discussing chaos lists, and that actually ended up informing and building the list that we spoke about today that I played with today, thanks to some feedback from a couple of our members and us as well. So super useful, super practical, and it's just a nice group of peeps.
Yep, so come be part of the community and join in, and hopefully we'll see you all again on the next video. So thanks very much, and just remember, it's journey over destination, so just try and find your own way and enjoy the process of learning. So hopefully you can all start to really enjoy this new edition and find the new hotness now that all the lines have been blurred. So, and we'll help you as much as we can. So
Yeah, no worries, Barbie.
yeah,
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Take it easy. Have a good
Catch
one.
you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Peace out.